Determine the value of b such that the function f of x equals x plus b for x is less than 1 and the square root of 3bx plus 7 for x is greater than or equal to 1 at the x-coordinate x equals 1 will be continuous. Since we are looking to determine if it is continuous, the first thing to do is write down the definition of what it means to be continuous, and that is the limit as x approaches a from both sides of f of x equals f of a. We're looking specifically at the x-coordinate of 1 here, so the limit as x approaches 1 from both sides of f of x equals f of 1. The first thing to do is work out the limit as x approaches 1 from both sides of f of x. Since f of x is a split expression function, it's splitting right at the x-coordinate of 1, we will have to work out each side of the limit separately. So we will need to look at the limit as x approaches 1 from the left side of f of x, and the limit as x approaches 1 from the right side of f of x. Let's start with the left side limit. The left side of 1 means less than 1, and that means we will be using this for our expression, f of x. So we can replace f of x with x plus b. The next thing to do is plug a 1 in for each of the x's. That will give us a 1 plus a b. We can now look at the right side limit. That means we're greater than 1, and we will be making use of this for the expression of f of x. Limit as x approaches 1 from the right side of the square root of 3bx plus 7. Next thing to do is try plugging a 1 in for each of the x's, and that will give us the square root of 3b times 1 plus 7. 3b times 1 is just 3b, so the square root of 3b plus 7. The results of the one-sided limits need to match for the two-sided limit to exist, and the two-sided limit needs to exist for continuity. So we will, at the very least, need those two things equal to each other. So we know that 1 plus b will need to equal the square root of 3b plus 7. The other thing we need to determine is f of 1. That's part of the continuity. We also need the two-sided limit to equal the function evaluated right at the value of 1. F of 1 for the split expression function up here will be evaluated where x can be a 1. X includes a 1 there, so we'll plug a 1 in for the square root of 3b times x, which x is a 1 here, so we'll plug it in, plus 7. 3b times a 1 is a 3b plus a 7. And we're resulting the exact expression we have for the right side limit. So at the very least, we are continuous from the right. As long as that b keeps it positive under the square root. But we have to see whether or not we're continuous from both sides, so we need to have the left and right side limits match each other. So overall, we need these two things to equal each other. We want to solve for b. Since b is stuck inside of a square root, the first thing to do is to square both sides. And 1 plus b squared means 1 plus b times 1 plus b. That will need to be FOILed out. The square root squared will cancel each other out, and we'll end up with 3b plus 7. FOILing out first 1 times 1, outside 1 times b, inside b times 1, and last b times b. I'll leave the right side alone. Let's bring everything to the left side and write it in descending order. We have only one b squared term. We have three terms that have a b. We have a b plus another b, that's a 2b, and then we're going to subtract 3b over there, so that'll be overall a negative b. And then for the constants, we have a 1 and a 7. We're going to bring the 7 over, and 1 minus the 7 is a negative 6. it's now equated to 0. This is a trinomial quadratic, and we'll be able to factor into b and b. And we need two numbers that multiply to be a -6 and add to be a -1. And that'll be a -3 and a +2. And so b can be a 3, or b can be a -2. Now, since we had a square root involved, we will need to check both of these results to see if it really holds true at both of them, or maybe just at one of them. So let's start at b equals 3. And what we're going to do is just plug it in for our results here. Now, the f of 1 and the right side limit of 1 already match each other, so really we're just comparing it to the left side limit at 1. 1 plus b will be 1 plus 3, which is a 4. And then the right side limit and the function, which are the same expression, square root of 3b plus 7, will be the square root of 3 times 3 plus 7, which comes out to 9 plus 7, or square root of 16, which is a 4. And those two expressions do match each other. They both came out to 4. So b equals 3 is at least one of the answers. Now we will test out b equals to -2. 1 plus b will be 1 minus a 2, which comes out to a -1. And the square root of 3b plus 7 will be the square root of 3 times -2 plus 7. 3 times a -2 is a -6, plus a 7 is a 1, and the square root of 1 is a +1. And those two do not match. One's a -1, one's a +1, and so it does not hold true at this b value. And therefore our result is b equals 3 only.